Good evening and welcome to a program devoted entirely to Lefties Losing It. Let's start with another celebrity who is determined to trash their own reputation. This one appears to have no qualms about his legacy being damaged with his ignorant, harebrained hate and vitriol. Here is Bruce Springsteen launching into a boring anti-Trump diatribe to an audience who would rather he just sang some of his classic songs.
They're removing residents off American streets and without due process of law are deporting them to foreign detention centers and prisons. This is all happening now. The majority of our elected representatives have failed to protect the American people from the abuses of an unfit president and a rogue government.
He wasn't done yet, though the audience seemed to be thoroughly fed up. You can tell that by the scant applause.
The America that I've sung to you about for 50 years is real. And regardless of its faults, is a great country with great people. So we'll survive this moment.
Look, we can't talk about Bruce Springsteen without featuring his great work during the election campaign, where he appeared at Kamala rallies to belt out the classics.
They'll be carving you up all right. Say you gotta stay hungry. Well, I'm just about starving tonight.
Oh dear.
Little world falling apart. This gun's for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
Now, trust me, that was literally the best bit. I could have been mean and played this.
Working all day in my dad's garage. Driving all night, chasing some mirage.
That is grim, but at least old Bruce is sure-footed. Sure, he can't sing anymore, but he can dance. I'll have more celebrities disgracing themselves tomorrow night, but now to the left losing it because the Trump administration is granting refugee status to a few dozen Afrikaners. Of course, white landholders are increasingly fleeing the racial hatred and violence of modern-day South Africa, but MSNBC would prefer them to stay where they are. Here is Donna Edwards.
Well, in my view, what makes it different is that they are white South Africans. The president, in my view, has not hidden his racism behind a bushel. In fact, you know, in his policies, whether it's removing government workers or, in this case, admitting white South Africans while denying refugee status, asylum seekers from other countries.
Disgraceful, and the race baiters are in the churches too. Here is Bishop Sean Rowe.
We can't be ourselves in the Episcopal Church and take the step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa. Our church has a long commitment to racial justice and reconciliation, and we have historic ties with the Anglican Church of South Africa. Desmond Tutu is a part of, been a partner was a partner in this work for us. So we're just not able to take this step. It's not in line with anything that we're about.
And let's have a quick look at what's happening in South Africa. Here is a politician calling for white women, white children, and even their pets to be killed.
One of us will kill 5 white people, will kill their children, will kill their women, will kill anything.
And here is a politician leading a stadium full of people calling for, and I quote, shoot to kill, kill the boer, kill the farmer.
The
MSNBC and CNN and the rest of them must have missed all that. If you want to see how loathsome and intolerant these leftists are, then look no further than Ashley Allison, who firstly seems to be quite happy with the discriminatory laws in South Africa, and then she really ramps up the bigotry.
That allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do, but South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution, and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also, and so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land just like we do, and that is for them to. So if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They're leaving to come here.
No, they can
these refugees are coming here.
They can actually leave and go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland, probably. Holland.
Are you against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming here?
If there was actually a genocide happening.
So, Afrikaners being murdered in their own farms should flee to where they came from almost 500 years ago. The Dutch settlers, the Afrikaners, first arrived in Africa in 1652. But they need to go back to Holland. But some gangbanger from El Salvador who was in America 5 minutes and entered illegally, well, they've got to be considered American and given all their rights. Let's allow Ashley Allison to finish her asinine point.
I'm not opposed to Venezuelans and South Americans coming to America if they are fleeing and looking for asylum. What I am
just these 50 people you're against.
I am against, it's not about being against them. What I am against is that they are being given special treatment when there is not a genocide happening in South Africa, and they just don't like the law of the land. Well, so you know what they tell people?
Yes, they don't like the law of the land in South Africa, the ones where their land is seized without compensation. Great point, Ashley. Let's go to the Cannes Film Festival, where the uber rich and famous gather to congratulate themselves about how special, brave, humble and inclusive they are, and how they are at the forefront of fighting fascism. Here is a once great actor turned TDS sufferer, Robert De Niro.
In my country, we're fighting like hell for the democracy we once took for granted. And that affects all of us. That affects all of us here because the arts are democratic. Art is inclusive. It brings people together. Like tonight, art looks for truth. Art embraces diversity. And that's why art is a threat. That's why we are a threat to autocrats and fascists.
Yes, the film industry is so inclusive, Robert. You actors have such a perfect moral compass with your sick, sordid personal lives. Did you notice global warming hysteric Leonardo DiCaprio on stage there with De Niro, the dude who flies around the world in private jets and sails in massive yachts, but is really, really concerned about emissions? And as for being inclusive, well, the 50-year-old is not very inclusive of women over 25, not in his dating life anyway. But let's get back to Robert De Niro's mad rant. Here he lies with gay abandon.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions. He has cut funding and support to the arts, humanities, and education. All these attacks are unacceptable. And this isn't just an American problem, it's a global one. Unlike a film, we can't just sit back and watch. We have to act, and we have to act now.
We have to act. We have to act now. It's amazing that Donald Trump, the fascist dictator, allows De Niro to defame him so easily. Why isn't he arresting him, putting him in jail? Isn't that what dictators do? And isn't that what we were told would happen? Remember when De Niro and fellow TDS sufferer Bill Maher were saying before the election what would happen if Trump won?
If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power.
No, he hasn't conceded power. He's your president. And weren't you dining with him at the White House, Bill Maher? And somehow Robert De Niro is still not locked up. Here's another lefty losing it actor, Ben Stiller, who also has crazy fever dreams about Trump coming after him.
It's impossible not to be aware of the fact that people feel this, that, oh, wow, there can be retribution from the government if you say something wrong. And that's really scary. So just to even be thinking that way is, but, of course, I'm aware of it. I think everybody's aware of it.
Can someone tell Ben Stiller that it was the previous administration that went after grandmothers for posting funny memes and sought to have school mums concerned about trans indoctrination in classrooms, sought to have them labelled domestic terrorists? All these clowns do is lie. If he was really genuinely worried about repercussions from the Trump administration, I can tell you Ben Stiller would be keeping his mouth shut. One thing you can say about Hollywood, they ain't brave. Here's another actor, Pedro Pascal, and when he's not signing letters accusing Israel of genocide, he's eager to tell you that being against the deportation of illegal immigrants means he's on the right side of history.
I want people to be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history. And I'm an immigrant. My parents are refugees from Chile. I myself was a refugee. We fled a dictatorship, and I was privileged enough to grow up in the U.S.
In a world of miserable, hysterical clowns like De Niro and Stiller, it pays to be a Jerry. Here is Jerry Seinfeld treating the loopy left with the disdain they richly deserve.
You, Jerry Seinfeld, free Palestine! You support the genocide of babies in Gaza! Free Only Palestine! You. Free Palestine! You, Jerry Seinfeld, you support the genocide of Palestinian children! You rabid dog! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
I love the kid blowing a kiss there at the end. You know who is much funnier than many of these triggered comics? It's 45 and 47, yes. POTUS was again cracking jokes earlier today, describing how he came to secure the Olympics for America after his 2016 election triumph.
When I spoke to this gentleman, who was obviously Scandinavian, seriously Scandinavian and very nice, I couldn't get him off the phone because he was so starved for love. He just kept, I must have had him for 2 hours. I couldn't. I said, sir, I have to go. I'm president-elect. Yes. All I said to him, yes, 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 we will take good care. They wanted to know that if they choose us for the Olympics, will we treat them nicely? And I said, we're going to treat you like so well, like you've never been treated.
But it didn't stop at the Olympics. Trump also secured the World Cup for America, and because of the 2020 election shenanigans, he'll be president when both events take place.
And we got the World Cup. I got them both, and I said, man, I won't be president. I won't be. I got the Olympics and the World Cup, and I won't be president. And they're going to forget that I got them. Nobody's going to mention it because, a little bit that's the way life is. And then they rigged the election. And then I said, you know what I'll do? I'll run again and I'll shove it up their ass. I then realized, I said, you know what? I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I got the 250th. Look at the way this works out. So if they would have left us alone and wouldn't have cheated on the election and wouldn't have rigged it, I would have been retired right now. I would have been happily doing something else. And instead they have me for 4 more years. Can you believe it?
And when it comes to Trump, we know that the opinion polls always understate his popularity, but the polls are nevertheless turning, and even CNN is forced to acknowledge that unhappy news. Unhappy for them.
I think it's time for a bit of a reality check, right? We were going to late April. Donald Trump's approval rating, his net approval seemed to be falling. He seemed to be adios amigos. People were writing his political obituary. He is rising from the dead. Look at this. Hello, Trump's net approval rating among voters. This is the Reuters Ipsos polling. Look at this. In late April, he was 8 points underwater. But look at where he was in the most recent poll among voters. He's up 7 points.
How do we get this deep into the week without some input from the ladies of The View? And these miserable maidens are losing their teeny tiny minds again about Joe Biden.
He's 83, so he's a little stumbly, he's a little rumbly. I can't point to anything that he's done as president that he did.
No,
as president. But I want somebody to tell me, well, when did you know it was bad? If you knew, why did you wait?
Yeah. So can I get in
He
for a
said
second?
that it was after he moderated the debate.
Yes, but that's not, I'm sorry, baby. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you're telling me that hundreds of people knew that he was not able to do his job, then where the hell was everybody?
Hundreds of people, Whoopi, hundreds of millions of people around the world who don't get their news from leftist lies like you knew about Joe Biden's cognitive decline. They knew it was real and it made him unfit for office. I've been covering it on this station for more than 5 years. Let's just have around 20 seconds of President Applesauce.
Putin's kleptocracy, yeah. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. The idea that Los Angeles and what am I doing here?
I don't know what you were doing there. I don't know how Whoopi missed all that. It was only around a week ago when Joe Biden and Chief Elder Abuser Jill were on The View to try to dispel any notions of his feeble mental state. It did not go well.
The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure? How do you lead the world without having the best healthcare in the world?
But we can hardly expect any level of integrity or consistency from the ladies of The View. And let's stay on Whoopi Goldberg, because remember when she said this before the election, disputing the notion that Donald Trump and the Republicans were pro-family.
The thing that really pisses me off about this is, you know, if y'all really cared about children, where are the tax credits? Where's the paid family leave? Where's the free health care? You know?
Yep, she's demanding tax credits, but now that the Trump administration is coming through with some relief, she ain't happy.
So as birth rates continue to decline in America, the White House is looking into offering $5,000 cash bonuses, expanded access to IVF, along with other incentives for women to have more babies.
Why?
And, okay. I am incredibly insulted by this because clearly they don't know how women's bodies work.
Oh, she's so insufferable, isn't she? And yes, Whoopi, I'm sure it's Republicans who don't know how women's bodies work, not your ilk who claim women can have penises and men can breastfeed. But how interesting that you are insulted, you are enraged by the very tax credits you are demanding. Now she's mocking the $5,000 benefit because that's nothing. Well, what's that going to cover, lunch?
I don't know what $5,000 is supposed to do. And it's not even $5,000 because you have to cut it in half because you got to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
So they're offering you $2,500.
They're just the worst, aren't they? Now, talking about miserable maidens, here is Hillary Clinton being Hillary Clinton, i.e. awful.
What advice do you have for the first female president of the United States?
Well, first of all, don't be a handmaiden to the patriarchy, which kind of eliminates every woman on the other side of the aisle.
Handmaidens for the patriarchy, that's how Hillary describes Republican women, except for someone like Liz Cheney, because someone as awful as Hillary. You know, it's a little rich for the woman who allowed herself to be repeatedly humiliated over and over again with Bill Clinton's wild philandering, affair after affair, Monica, Paula, Jennifer, Kathleen, the list goes on. And I'm not even touching on his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Never forget that this was the painting in prime position in Jeffrey Epstein's house. And through all of that humiliation, Hillary stood by her philandering man. Want to talk about a handmaiden for the patriarchy? Look in the mirror, love. Now let's go to Colorado and check in with how the Democrats are faring. This is Colorado State Senator Chris Kolker, who says he is accountable to God, and that's why he's standing up for equality and trans Jesus. Trans what?
I'm accountable to Almighty God because I'm standing up for equality. Well, on my day of judgment, I might be standing in front of trans Jesus. I don't know. I don't know. It's what I believe. And I believe that Jesus, God, will look at me and say, you stood up for people.
Now to Jake Tapper's new book, Original Sin, on President Biden's decline and its covered up by the likes of Jake Tapper. We haven't forgotten Jake, but he's on the book tour and his fellow lefties are treating these revelations on Biden's decline like it's breaking news. One interesting note, again, something those on the right have pointed out for some time, is the Biden family's dodgy business dealings involving Hunter Biden often, whose influence extended to the Oval Office. Indeed, was America being unwittingly led by this guy?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the 10 crack commandments. Follow these rules, you'll have mad bread to break up. If not, 24 years on the wake up.
Good Lord, let's hear what CNN anchor Jake Tapper has to say.
How big a factor was the Hunter stuff?
I think it was considerable. I think Hunter was driving the decision making for the family in a way that people, he was almost like a chief of staff of the family.
Does that strike you as pretty bizarre?
It's bizarre because I think he is provably, demonstrably unethical, sleazy, and prone to horrible decisions. I mean,
tell me how you really feel.
Well, I mean, I just look at the record. I mean, after his brother died, he cheated on his wife with his brother's widow and then got her addicted to crack.
Today, Donald Trump pulled off a masterstroke in front of the world's media. He shamed South African President Cyril Ramaphosa with the ugly truth of anti-white, anti-Boer racism and violence in his country, an issue no other world leader is addressing. And he did it by playing a clip showcasing just how grim the situation is in South Africa. Turn down the lights.
Turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land.
Of course, that saw the lefty media lose it en masse. Apparently, white farmers being targeted, being killed, having their land taken without compensation. It's all a conspiracy theory. Here is the thoroughly detestable Nicole Wallace on MSNBC.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader inside the Oval Office. But what he did instead was embarrass and humiliate the people of the United States of America again. In his meeting with President Ramaphosa, Trump peddled unsubstantiated claims of genocide in South Africa of white South Africans, a group that ruled during apartheid in South Africa. It is a fringe conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory? What, like the virus coming from a lab or Joe Biden suffering cognitive decline? Yes, it's just another conspiracy theory. Let's check in on the sort of scenes witnessed in the South African Parliament.
You can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land. Yes. South African
occupy land. That's who we are.
And here, Julius Malema, parliamentarian and leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, says that there must be killing.
Must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
And here is a stadium full of people all chanting, "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer." Now, this week's Secretary of State Marco Rubio's Senate committee hearing was interrupted by rational, totally sane protesters making valid points. Of course, I jest, it was the usual lefties losing it.
Weapons to Israel.